All right, we're going to talk about the beginning of the Great Depression. So we think about the Great Depression starting in 1929, 1930, but throughout the 1920s, there were a lot of people who were in economic distress, especially farmers. After World War One, during World War One, they made a tremendous amount of money because demand was so high. They took that opportunity to take out more loans to buy more machinery and expand. And once prices came down in the 1920s, they really started to suffer. So that was an area of the economy that was really struggling early on, even before the Depression. President Hoover knew that that was a big problem. He wasn't stupid. But as farmers kept planting more and more, prices are still going to stay low. It's a supply and demand problem. Consumer buying went down. That's still a measure of the economy that gets used today. If people are secure with their place in the economy and their job status, they're likely to spend their money. If they're unsure, um, they don't. They tend to save it. So that's kind of a measure of how people are feeling about the economy, as is home buying. That's a big investment. It's a big purchase. And if people aren't buying homes, then again, that's a way of looking at how people feel about the economy. In the 1920s, like the Gilded Age, there was a huge gap between the few wealthy and the many poor that had narrowed a little bit in the early 20th century and then exploded again in the 1920s. So the people at the bottom 90%, were competing for less and less of the share of the wealth, and that was causing some problems also. So the stock market itself um, is one of those things where it didn't cause the Great Depression by itself. It just sort of got the ball rolling. Before the stock market crash in the fall of 1929, people are starting to get a little nervous. Do I invest my money? Do I spend it? Do I keep it? And then on October 24th, people started selling all kinds of stocks, selling them left and right, trying to get rid of as many as they can, and that's going to cause prices to go down. And once you see that, if you're an investor, you see other people doing that, you're going to want to get in on that as well. And again, prices are going to go way, way down. Now, there were some people that were able to come in and buy a whole bunch of stock and kind of make everybody feel better. So this initial panic ended, but the next week things um, got worse again. That Thursday sell off on October 24th mainly affected only smaller companies. The big corporations, Ford and US Steel and corporations like that, weren't really affected. So then a lot of people didn't really care. But when trading started again the next week, people kind of had those bad feelings again. And then that next day, the Tuesday, is when that's the day we refer to as Black Tuesday. That's the complete collapse of the stock market. Millions and millions of shares were sold, and billions of dollars in value was lost. And some people lost everything. Some people made it out okay, were able to sell early. Many people lost everything. And so again, that by itself didn't start the Great Depression, but it sort of got the ball rolling. So that's one of the things that I want you to make sure that you understand about this. It shook confidence. It made people scared. It made people afraid. And when people are scared and afraid, they sometimes don't make rational decisions and certainly don't want to spend their money, invest their money. So if we look at what are actually the causes of the Great Depression, there's a couple things: overproduction and overexpansion. Companies were just like farmers, were spending way too much money producing their goods and expanding their businesses and not investing in their workers. Workers weren't necessarily making more money, and that means that as prices go up and their wages stay the same, they're able to buy less. A lot of people couldn't buy the products that they were helping to make. And if you're a business, you want people to buy your products, and increasingly your workers weren't able to do that. So again, investing in their businesses, not in their workers. There was a lack of oversight by the government. The government wasn't really watching over the stock market or businesses, and there were a lot of rules that were being broken, but people weren't being held to account for that. Um, and then a lot of borrowing in the 1920s came back to get consumers. They owed a lot of money, but again, weren't necessarily making more. and their financial situation was pretty bad. So we kind of get this negative cycle going on, which I'll elaborate on in a second. If investors didn't have money, they can't invest in business and also couldn't repay their debts, businesses are losing out on that investment revenue. Production is going to slow down. Workers are going to see their hours and their wages cut or laid off entirely. That's the easiest way for a business to cut costs. One of the easiest ways. Um, if you didn't have a job, you couldn't buy your goods, so demand falls. You would think, well, that's good, that's going to raise prices, but then that makes it harder for people to buy stuff. As U.S. banks start to falter, they look to Europe to get World War One debts repaid. European banks fail, not because of this, but this is a sign that this is a global depression, not just a U.S. depression. So we're going to talk throughout the unit about these economic cycles. So when people have money, people spend money. When people spend money, businesses get it. Businesses get money. Ideally, they pay their people more. They hire more people and pay them more. There's more investment. More people have money. This is the way we want things to go. This is the happy cycle. When things go bad, like during the Great Depression, and businesses are losing out on revenue because people aren't investing or people aren't buying their goods, they can't pay their employees, people get laid off, you can't spend money if you don't have money, and the businesses lose additional revenue, and this is the sad face cycle. We don't like to see this. So the question is here, where do we inject money so that things can get turned around? Does the government give money to banks? Does it give money directly to people's hands? Does it employ people to do work? Where do we get money? Where do we put money to get this thing turned around? Um, and that when we're going to talk about that when we look at the New Deal later. One of the immediate effects of the Great Depression is bank failures. People were literally running to the bank to get their money out, and this is at various times in the 1930s. When you're not sure if your bank's going to survive, you want your money in your hand. You don't want it written on a piece of paper. You're supposed to have this much. You want it in your hand. And so people go to the banks and they try and get everything that they can. The banks didn't necessarily have enough cash on hand to cover all of that. So once they ran out of money, they were done. They closed. And once that happened, if you didn't get your money, it was gone. It's like it never existed in the first place. So a lot of people lost their life savings, which was obviously a very tragic situation. And this happened hundreds of times in the early 1930s, um, which contributed is an effect of the financial uh, um, the is an effect of the financial crisis, but it also creates more problems, of course. Farm failures increased dramatically. There were a number of bankruptcies and foreclosures that happened on farms. They just couldn't pay their debts, so the bank took their farms away. Um, One of the big stories of the Great Depression is the massive unemployment. At its worst, it was 25%. 1 in 4 people were out of work. That doesn't even count the underemployed, people who were working but maybe not full time. Today, that's around 4%, which is historically a really, really good number. So that's obviously a huge crisis, and in some places it was dramatically higher. In terms of how people could endure the Great Depression, there weren't any government programs. There was no welfare. There was no unemployment or no food stamps. There wasn't anything from the government. If you were struggling, you were going to struggle, and you had to figure it out. And so the New Deal, as a response to the Great Depression, is when we see a lot of development of government aid in times of crisis, times of financial crisis. A lot of people lost their homes and then had to move in with family, or you get in some major cities what are called Hoovervilles, and these hastily built shanty towns just for some type of uh, shelter, derisively named after Hoover, who they blamed for the Great Depression. You also get the term hobo and people just moving about the country trying to find whatever work they can, wherever they can, begging and stealing food. I mean, it was a really um, huge time of human suffering in the United States. And so when we talk about changes that happened because of the Great Depression and why they're so important and why they happened, a lot of it is because of this. people, individual people, needed the help in greater and greater numbers. So later on in the unit, we're going to talk about the New Deal and what that is and how that aimed to help.